Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Those who are new here, hi, hello. My name is Gianna, and for today's video, I'm actually going to be making a part 2 to my part 1 of Let's Talk About Self-Love. This is kind of going to be more in depth about, I guess, having more knowledge and info about that, because my first one, it was kind of me like rambling on at like 11:30 at night, and I just feel like this one will be a lot more professional or whatever, not whatever, more professional. And honestly, I actually have all of my notes right there, what I want to cover. So if you see me glancing down, that's what I'm looking at. So let's just get on into it. Okay, so in my last video, I kind of covered a little bit about what self-love was and what it meant to me and how I kind of struggled with that for a while. Still am. And I'm actually using a lot of workbooks to help me figure out that issue to love myself more. So in the book, my workbook that I have for self-compassion, like learning about it. So whenever we are given any difficult or scary situations or tough situations, your brain interprets any fear that is given to you as a threat, and it causes you to fight the situation, flee from it, or completely just shut down. And this is what is called a stress response. And I actually learned that in psychology about like flee or flight. Yeah. And honestly, I think that is very, very accurate, because an example would be, say you feel like you're in danger or you're anxious about something. You're going to just want to close off from anyone and everything and think that you're not good enough. So when you shut down, it limits your ability to handle difficult or painful situations in real time. But when you practice self-love and self-compassion, it actually can counteract with your original thoughts by having you be more emotionally intelligent about your own emotions or feelings when difficult situations happen. So what that means is, when you're emotionally intelligent about your emotions, you'll be more in control of when bad or harder situations may occur, which is a good thing, because then when you have self-compassion, you're more aware and you're more emotionally intelligent, because then you can tell yourself, okay, everything's fine, everything's gonna be okay. But honestly, like, when we feel that we're in fear, our first instinct is to obviously run from that, or shut down, or try and fight that battle that we're dealing with, like depression or something. We try and fight it and try and either that or just isolate ourselves from the reality, but that's not really gonna get you anywhere. Sadly, I wish it was that easy, but it is not. So I'm assuming you all are wondering, what is self-compassion anyway? That's why we're here. Self-love, self-compassion, vibing. Probably not. So self-compassion is the ability to recognize that someone is suffering well, I should say not even self-compassion, just compassion in general is your ability to recognize when someone is suffering and you're able to express kindness and warmth to that person and be willing to respond to their struggles in a helpful way. And sadly, a lot of people aren't like that. Because we live in a society where if we don't meet societal norms, or if we feel like someone is being deviant or having deviant behavior, we just feel like they're weird and we judge them automatically. So not a lot of people are actually willing to sit down and listen to other people's struggles and having compassion toward them. So to have compassion means you offer your understanding when they make mistakes or fail without making them feel criticized or judged by the other person. And we as humans have a tendency to do that. It's kind of just like a normal reaction, which is really sad because just like the expression "don't judge a book by its cover" goes so, like, it just comes down to so many different things. And you can get so far with other people and with yourself if you just stop judging them and criticizing them, because everyone makes mistakes. Everyone is human. It's how you live and you learn through mistakes, because nobody's perfect. And if they all were, we'd all be the same. And you'd never learn from your mistakes, and your mistakes and failures do not define you, because honestly, everyone's human, nobody's perfect. So it also involves acknowledging the person as a human being and accepting their suffering as a part of being a part of the human condition. So kind of like what I just said with the whole everyone's human, we all make mistakes, nobody's perfect. Because honestly, if we lived in a society or life that everyone never made mistakes or nobody else failed, we wouldn't have all these other situations in the world. And I feel like everyone would just be very self-involved, even more than they probably already are. And it would just not be a good thing if we weren't able to grow with the mistakes or failures that we make as human beings. So let me just sit now so I know that. Okay, so now going back, so now we kind of learned a little bit more about compassion. So now I'm going to give you a little bit what self-compassion is. So it is an act where you turn your warm-hearted energy inward toward yourself. So instead of obviously having that warm-hearted energy toward other people, you have to be able to do that to yourself, or else you're never going to be able to love yourself 100% completely. And honestly, without loving ourselves or having any self-compassion, we're gonna be very disappointed. And honestly, we're not gonna be in very healthy relationships with people unless we start loving ourselves. So the practice that the book taught me is involves pausing to acknowledge that something is difficult or you're hurting, and asking how you can comfort and take care of yourself in that moment. So instead of beating yourself down and just assuming the absolute worst, you are able to take a moment and calm yourself down. And actually, typically, we are more forgiving and supportive to our loved ones than ourselves, which I 100,010 whatever agree with, because honestly, we always put others first before ourselves, and that is where we go wrong when it comes to self-love and self-worth and self-compassion, for that matter, because we don't prioritize our feelings or our values and our selves in general. And that is why once you start putting yourself first, the whole world around you will change. And it's harder to actually start putting yourself first if you haven't been in like your entire life, you know what I mean? And we also have a tendency to either ignore our own pain or punish ourselves for feeling a certain way. And that leads to often judging or isolating ourselves during a difficult time. Which, I mean, I personally do that. I hate doing that, but I just feel like, you know what? I kind of look at it as no one, I feel like during that time where I'm feeling like that, no one else understands or is going through the same things as me. But honestly, that is not the case, because there are a lot of people out there that are going through way worse than I am. And it also, I know that I judge myself when I get down like that, because I feel like I'm not, quote, I feel like I'm not good enough. And it's mentally draining to feel like that all the time. And hating yourself. And like not even hating yourself, but loathing yourself for your entire life. It is so mentally exhausting. It's really hard to come out of that hole that you've been in your entire life. So, now, I don't want to make this video too long, because I want to obviously give you as much information, but also not overwhelm you, and also not talk so sadly. Anyways, so the book talks about three different things that help with self-compassion and self-love. So the first is self-kindness. Kindness. Oh my gosh. Kindness. So what does that mean? It's pretty self-explanatory. It is being kind to yourself is simple and a powerful alternative to being your worst critic. Because we are. We always criticize ourselves, thinking, oh, why can't I look like her? I'm not good enough. Why'd you do that? You're so stupid. And on and so forth. And with this, the practice involves comforting yourself with words of kindness. So say if you're down about, I don't know, getting a bad grade in college, and you're like, wow, I'm an idiot. I should just drop out. Instead, you can say, okay, that was one test, and there's going to be more. It's not the end of the world. And it also involves paying attention to the tone of your inner monologue and noticing if you're being gentle, warm, and loving toward yourself. So I think that is very important, because honestly, your inner monologue is super important. That's like the little, it's gonna sound crazy, but the little voice in your head. Obviously, saying all that stuff, like your mind is telling you all these negative things, and it's like, that's not doing you any good at all. Sorry. So the next thing is common humanity. So the key component is recognizing that you're not alone. You are part of a common humanity. We are all human and we are all suffering. Like, we all suffer, not suffering. Some of us are suffering, but so what that means is, honestly, kind of going back to what I said earlier with I get down, I feel like no one else understands and nobody else is going through anything that I'm going through, or they don't know how I'm feeling, but in reality, and a lot more people go through things and they every day, if not more, in the world. And we have to remember and keep in mind that nobody's perfect and everyone goes through something in their entire existence, because like I said, if we didn't go through anything, we wouldn't be learning as we go, which is, life is a learning experience, you know. And when you recognize your common humanity, you begin to comfort yourself with kinder thoughts. So once you start accepting the fact that you're not alone and other people are going through and feeling the same way that you might be feeling right now, you'll start to understand and be kinder to yourself. Okay, so the last is mindfulness. So with that, it is paying close attention to what is happening in a given moment without any judgment. Because they all kind of tie back. Obviously, they kind of all circle back to each other. And I feel like mindfulness is very important when it comes to self-compassion. Because obviously during a certain moment of a difficult situation or a moment of pain that you're going through, we just automatically assume the worst and we think, oh, this isn't going to get any better. But honestly, it does. So that kind of ties into what over-identification is, and that happens when you start to believe that a thought you are having or an emotion you are feeling is not something you're experiencing, but rather who you are. So it's pretty much, it's kind of like a schema. Schemas. Yeah, because schemas are when you believe or think something is the way that it is, and it's not any other way but that. And it's true, because I honestly feel like a lot of us think that those negative thoughts and negative feelings and all that self-doubt and self-talk is what defines us. We believe that obviously if our mind is telling us we're not good enough, then those thoughts and feelings must be true, and it's not, because we are good enough. We are here for a reason. You are here for a reason. And just because you're experiencing sadness doesn't mean being sad is all that's true about your life. It doesn't define you. So kind of like I said, it kind of all coincides with each other in good ways, in more ways than one, actually. So I'm kind of going to end this video with a little, on a good note. So as you learn to be mindful of your inner experiences, you'll become better at catching yourself in a negative thought spirals. Noticing how your body feels during a moment of stress, and observing your emotions without suppressing or exaggerating them. And With a mindful approach, you will come to understand that thoughts are always coming and going and that they aren't a fact. So that pretty much means that even with self-compassion and self-love, negative thoughts are always going to be there. And all these thoughts are going to come and go, but you can't believe everything that your inner monologue is telling you, because I know and you know that you are good enough, you are successful, you are independent, you are amazing. You were put on this earth for a reason, to give endless love to yourself and others. So that's all I have today for you, my angels. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.